All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. We're just going to give it a few seconds. We'll allow everybody some time to join the webinar. All right, so again, thank you everybody for taking the time to be with us today. We have another inspirational and exciting webinar with some really great information for you today. Before we get into it, just a couple quick housekeeping things. So if you have any questions for myself or our guest, who I'll introduce in a little bit, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can enter them there and we will answer all the questions at the end of the webinar. If you have any thoughts, comments, you can also put them in there as well. As a reminder, we always do record these webinars, so we will be putting them on our YouTube page. So if you enjoy what you see and you want to share it with somebody within a week or so, we will have this up on our YouTube page and you'll get a link to rewatch the webinar if you need to. Before we get into today's information and what we're going to be talking about, I just want to touch on briefly the news that a lot of people saw a few weeks ago in the NFL. On January 2nd, during the Monday Night Football game between the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals, Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field after making a tackle and went into sudden cardiac arrest. And it was probably one of the most witnessed sudden cardiac arrests that we've ever seen. And thankfully, now Damar is doing well and recovering. And we just want to talk about kind of the narrative that we want to come out of this, and that's that, it wasn't, quote unquote, a miracle. It wasn't luck that Damar survived. It was the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buffalo Bills being prepared. And it's really important to understand that the reason Damar survived that day was because there were trained responders. There was an emergency action plan in place. CPR was administered within seconds, and an AED was used, shortly thereafter. And that formula is what can give someone the highest chances of survival from sudden cardiac arrest. And when organizations, when businesses, when schools are prepared, survival rates can be really high. And it doesn't have to be a miracle, right? When we are prepared, people can survive sudden cardiac arrest. So we're really thankful that Damar is doing well and recovering. And again, it was just a really positive example of the chain of survival in action being used to help save somebody's life. All right, so today I'm excited. I have a really special guest that I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the last couple of years and following all of his amazing work. Sergio Petrucci has joined us from the Red Sky Foundation. He has an incredible story that he's going to share. He has an incredible organization that is doing some great work that aligns exactly with our mission here at the FIPTech. So Sergio, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you very much. And it's very kind of you to invite me to speak on behalf of the Red Sky Foundation to anybody who really is interested in our story. And the reason why I have been asked to talk to everybody in America is to pretty much share something that's been quite a happy story, a sensational one in all fairness, but also it's our story, it's my story, it's my wife's family. But most importantly, it's that little girl that you see on the screen in front of you is my daughter's story. My daughter is called Luna, and she had open heart surgery. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about where we got to and how it all started. So let me, first of all, begin by telling you, or taking you back to, she was born in March 2013. If we go back to the slide first. And in essence, when she was born, the doctors, the pediatricians came around the hospital as they do, and they listened to the heartbeat. And like I add also, I come from a place called Sunderland in England, in the UK, which is quite close to Scotland and in the northeast of England. So just to set the scene there. Now, Luna was born on the 13th of March 2013. And when she was born, it was brilliant. We had a complete family to join our son Enzo. And when doctors listened to Luna's chest and heartbeat, they discovered that there was an echo, which basically meant there were holes in the heart. And upon scanning her heart, that's exactly what the doctors found, and the cardiologist said that they would monitor the progress in the situation that Luna would grow, and hopefully as she grew, the heart would grow, and in essence, those holes in the heart would grow, would close naturally on their own, and that's what we all were wishing for. Now, basically, what happened was just shortly before her second birthday, Luna had a consultation with her cardiologist, and on a group meeting, all of the doctors around this area and the cardiologist agreed that Luna's heart was actually described as a ticking time bomb. And really, in essence, what I'd like to describe it as is, if anybody owns a bicycle and they might have had a flat tire before, when a flat tire happens, the air seeps out. Now, in Luna's case, when Luna's heart was beating, the blood was seeping out of the holes as well, which meant that the heart would have to pump harder and faster, and in time might just go into cardiac arrest herself, which is why it was decided that she must go to a place not too far from here, a place called Newcastle, where there is a hospital called the Freeman Hospital. It's a world-class centre of excellence for cardiac surgery, both in babies, children, and adults. People come from all over the world to learn their trade, heart surgery, and specialisms related to cardiology at the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle. Now, we were asked to go there on the 8th of March, 2015, like I say, and the night before that Luna walked into the hospital, the sun was setting and it cast a shadow of Luna wearing a ponytail, a petticoat, and blowing soap bubbles while she walked, oblivious, into the hospital as to what was going to happen to her. And there it was, and she was prepared for surgery, and she was prepared for surgery in an overspill ward called the ear, nose, and throat ward, because there weren't enough beds on the cardiac ward for the children's heart unit. And I had the opportunity to stay overnight whilst Emma, my wife, Luna's mummy, could stay by her bed in the ward itself. And yeah, we didn't get much sleep that night, obviously, because we knew what was going to happen the following day after doctors described how they were going to do this operation, which involved making an incision, cutting into the rib cage and pulling the rib cage back to expose the heart, where they would close those holes that needed fixing, really, in order to save her life. They told us it was going to be a 7-hour operation on the Monday morning. Now, that was scheduled for 9 o'clock on the Monday morning. So I woke up at, I don't know, just about 5:30, really, or at least to start to stir. And I took a walk from the parent block, which is an accommodation, and I walked over to the Freeman Hospital. Now, the slide that you see right now is pretty much what I saw that day, where the clouds were rolling into each other. The morning sunrise filled the sky full of fire, and that's, I guess, where that's where I guess the story of the Red Sky Foundation began. Now, as I took the walk into the hospital, clearly there was nervousness on Luna's face. There was nervousness on Mummy's face as well, Emma's face. But really, we were just getting ready for it. Now, bear in mind, we were preparing for surgery at 9 a.m. and we kept getting pushed back because I later found out that Luna's surgeon had been up all night performing a heart transplant operation on a girl, a 15-year-old girl from the south coast of England, which meant that her case was far more important and her priority was the case. So as we got pushed back a few hours, I spent a little bit more time in the chapel in the hospital. I didn't really know who else to talk to. And then Luna was playing in the ear, nose, and throat overspill ward. And this is when I realized in life, really, that there's always somebody with a worse problem, because in that play area, there was a little boy playing, and his mum and dad were visibly nervous or looked in a little bit of a state. And the silence was broken when they asked me if Luna was also getting her tonsils taken out. So when I said that she was having open heart surgery, I guess that's when they realised their problems weren't as bad as what other people's were. Now, as Luna went into hospital, into surgery, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. It's as though it was yesterday. Um, Basically, what happened was when she went into surgery, we were holding her hand, and as the anaesthetic kicked in, the grip on our hands loosened, and away she went into sleep. And I guess we were putting our sorry about this. We were putting our daughter's life in the hands of complete strangers, in essence. And we were told to stay by the phone, and in 7 or 8 hours' time, there would be a telephone call to let us know how the operation went. And that was the longest 7 hours of, well, I guess any parent's life, essentially. Anyway, we did. If you go to the next slide, when we got the phone call and we got it off Luna's surgeon, which is Barry Matuza in the bottom left there, we were asked to come back over into the hospital, and they would discuss how the operation went. Now, the only thing that I could really focus on was the doctor's hands, thinking that, wow, they pretty much fixed Luna's heart, and everything else that he had said I was oblivious to, in all honesty. He as soon as he said it was a success, that's all I was bothered about. But he did tell us to prepare for what we were about to see in the intensive care unit. As you can see in the centre picture there, it took us by complete shock and surprise to see her like that, and completely reliant upon machines to keep her alive. So anyway, during our time in hospital, it was pivotal because I guess I also had the time to realise about life in general. It wasn't all about money or careers or progression at work and things like that. Life to me became quite important then, and I guess money became oblivious as well. And I had a really successful job in radio sales and media, and I guess it was during that time in hospital when I did receive phone calls from work asking me if I could bring any revenue into the station and things like that. And that's when I started to realise I was no more than just a commodity to the business. And I recognised what was the most important thing in my life, which was Emma, Luna especially, and obviously Enzo as well, equally. And what happened that week, we had time to digest and take in what was going on around us. And it wasn't until I looked to the left, Luna's right, of the bed, and there was a little boy who was also 2 years old. He was from Scotland, and he unfortunately needed somebody else's child to die for his life to begin. He needed a heart transplant. So if you remember when I was saying about the parents in the ear, nose and throat ward who asked me if Luna was getting her tonsils taken out, yes, Luna's also had a major operation, but really her problem was just minuscule compared to Drew's problem. And I'm pleased to tell you that Drew got his heart. He got his chance to live, which is a great story. Now, during our time in that intensive care unit, which was overspent because there wasn't enough beds on the normal recovery ward, I got talking to the nurse that looked after us, and she was amazing. She made the most amazing cups of tea, and she had a story to tell as well. She had a boyfriend, and she was really, really kind, as nurses are. Now, we hope that Luna will get home for her 2nd birthday, and sure enough, those red clouds that appeared on the Monday morning started to clear each day into nice crisp blue ones, and by the Friday, they were the most beautiful crisp blue, clear, not a cloud in the sky. And I don't know whether that was a sign from some unseen help or whatever, but I guess it was somebody's way of telling us that we were out of the woods, and those stormy clouds had cleared and Luna was allowed to come home. Now I said to the nurse, Sarah, I said, listen, I said, I'd like to do something to repay our gratitude, and I'd like you to take this money. And it was only £100, which is the equivalent of about 120 or $30. And I just wanted her to go out on a date with her boyfriend, have a nice time that weekend. Now, she refused it, and I couldn't understand why. I mean, it was the first time we'd really encountered this experience in a hospital. I thought it was no different to going to an Italian restaurant, having great service, having a pizza or a pasta, and leaving a tip for the waiter, as you do. And she refused the money. And she said, I can't take that because I work for this thing called the NHS. And if you don't know what the NHS is in America, it's our health service, essentially, our national health service. And she told me it was her job to care for us and make sure that Luna had a successful recovery. Anyway, she said if we wanted to, we could fundraise. Now, I don't know if anybody watching this has fundraised before, but I thought, well, that's a good idea. So off I went, and we took Luna home. And I guess that idea of fundraising became a distant memory. I got sucked back into working life. And from the March, April, May, June, all the way through the rest of the year, I didn't do anything. I was too focused on work, and it was something that I promised I would never do, but I did. And then somebody called us out shortly before we were called back into the hospital to do a documentary. And this person that called us out and said, I thought you were going to do some fundraising for the hospital that looked after you. And I said, you know what it is? I did say that, I did, but I haven't got around to it. Anyway, we were called back in, and there was Sarah waiting for us in the hospital. She was so excited. She had the most amazing smile, and she was really, really buoyant, pretty much to find out exactly what we had done to fundraise for the award. Remember, she told us that's what she would have liked us to do. So when I told her that we hadn't really, well, for example, I hadn't raised any money and I hadn't done anything, she called me the D word. Do you know what the D word might have been? Yeah, disappointed. Okay, she said I was a disappointment. And you know, I felt really bad, and I said, you know what it is? I will fundraise. I promise you, I'll raise some money and I'll do it. So I came home and I went on the internet and I Googled, what can you do to fundraise? And it said you can either run a marathon. Okay, well, I didn't have any Nike Max, you know. Or you can swim the channel, the English Channel, which was a little bit far for me. Or you could even do something spectacular, like jump out of an aeroplane at 10,000 feet and skydive and get people to sponsor you. And I was like, no way, I'm not doing that. And I thought, oh, hang on a minute. I work for the radio station. I've got a few pop stars' phone numbers in my pocket in my mobile phone. I don't know, what we'll do is we'll have a party and we'll call it the Red Sky Ball, and it'll be amazing. We'll have it in this place called the Stadium of Light, which is, in your words, a soccer stadium, okay? And we basically encourage people to come and buy a ticket, wear a dicky bow tie, and if you can guess what colour it was, you're a good bet. It was red. People had to wear something red, and that's where the Red Sky Ball was born. Now, I didn't tell any lies to the pop star when I told her that it was going to be in the Stadium of Light. When she asked me, how many people can you get in the stadium? And I said, well, 47,500 people is the capacity. So she was excited. She thought she was going to be performing a bit like Ed Sheeran, Elton John recently. And sure enough, when she turned up on the 26th of February, 2016, she was wondering where all the crowds were and wondered if she got the wrong date. I said, no, they're all waiting in the room. There was 400 people that night. We got to tell the story. We got to show the pictures. If you go to the next scene there, the next slide, we had something spectacular. We had an event, and I got to tell the story, and we raised an absolutely astonishing amount of money. We raised over £64,000 that night, which is about $100,000 just by selling raffle tickets. We had a small auction, and people, well, people just fell in love with the whole Red Sky story. It was very romantic and it was very happy as well, because remember, Luna was fixed. Nobody died through this for a start. But I said I would only do this fundraising if I could show people what we were going to do with the money that we raised that night. Now, we raised a lot of money, and the equipment that we were going to be funding was going to change the way babies and children and adults would be treated. And there was scanner machines that were needed. And there was lots of support for us. But there was this guy on the way when the party finished. This guy had this amazing voice on him, and he shouted my name, Sergio. I said, shush, shush, you'll wake all the neighborhood around the stadium. I said, what's the matter anyway? And he said, I've had a great time, Sergio, but don't ever do this again. I said, why not? He said, it's impossible to repeat this. I've never seen anything like it, he said. And I said to Emma, my wife, I said, have you heard this? He says, we should never do this again. And Emma said, well, are you going to listen to him? Anyway, I said, no, we'll do it. We'll do it again. And we did. We did again and again. And by time, we were raising over £100,000 a year, net of costs, which is obviously important to tell you. Because I know that there's a lot of people might just quote figures for vanity, but you know, we had a purpose. We had machines, we had equipment, and we had things to buy with the money that we were raising. But it was great because the following year we were able to demonstrate what we did with people's money and show them the machines, and also bring doctors, nurses, and also parents of children who'd been treated on the Children's Heart Unit to the next Red Sky Ball and the next and the next. If we go to the next slide. Yeah, this is one of the machines that we were able to give the funds that we raised over to the Children's Heart Unit so they could go out and purchase them. One of them went into Sunderland. There was another machine that was part funded as well. That went into a place called Teesside, which is just down the road from Sunderland. And Luna's life began really. She had that second chance as well. But the next slide, she was constantly, she was continuously being monitored, and there she is having her ultrasounds and checking on how the holes were healing, which was lovely. Now, really, it goes without saying that we couldn't have done any of this fundraising without people buying tickets. We had great sponsors as well. We had corporate brands like Specsavers. We had big banks coming. We had airline companies supporting us as well. And it came to a point where we were doing so many great things, and we even got an invitation to Buckingham Palace to attend a garden party with the Queen and the royal family. If you go to the next slide there, you'll be able to see that. Which was the most surreal and amazing experience we've ever had. And I guess it was just recognition for what we've done and the hard work in such a short space of time. But I just want to ask, well, I've got nobody to respond to me, but has anybody ever told you that you're getting a bit too big for your boots? Maybe your mom or your dad or your gran? And that's exactly what happened with me. My mom had said, you know, this Red Sky, it's grown and grown and grown. Do you not think you should turn it into a charity? And I said, well, I don't really know the first thing about turning something into a charity. I mean, all we do is have a party, right? And she says, I know, but you know, there's a ways and means, and you can channel it. And a registered charity with the Charity Commission is very official. That means everything will be documented. There'll be governance and things like that. And she said, if you don't know, why don't you go and learn? So off I went, and I did. I started learning about how a charity runs. And I guess when I told my friends and I told other people, they started laughing at me, and they didn't really believe that anything was possible of that stature, because ultimately when people say a registered charity, straight away they think of, I don't know, Children in Need or NSPCC, which are great massive children's charities in the UK, and or the British Heart Foundation, for example. And really, the chance of me turning Red Sky Ball into something was of that similar elk was pretty much a pipe dream, and my friends laughed at me, and like I said, it was just pretty much scoffed. And I could have really let that affect me, but I didn't. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to prove them all wrong, and I'm going to prove every single one of them wrong, and I'm going to try. So to get a charitable status through, we had to write a letter and state what we were doing. And I wrote the letter off, and it went to London. And sure enough, in a couple of days later, I got a reply. But I got a reply, and I couldn't believe it. The letter declined our application. So I got on the phone to the guys in London, and I asked the question, why? Why did you do it? Why did you refuse it? And basically what he said was that we weren't doing enough things in the community. So I said, all right. And after a couple of minutes and that, he ended the call, and I came back to Emma and I said, we need to do things in the community. And she said, well, what does it mean? What does it mean? I was like, what does it mean? Because ultimately we were fundraising, we were buying amazing bits of machinery, and we were helping to save people's lives. Well, what could community really mean to us? And then all of a sudden the penny dropped, and it was these things here called defibrillators. Yeah. And I thought, you know what, if we could get those into communities, and we could also we can go into like schools within communities, or we'll go into community centres where people gather, or we'll go to churches as well, and we'll just basically, it doesn't matter what creed or what age they were, I said, we can show people how to use a defibrillator, how to do CPR, but more so, we'll get these defibrillators into public areas so they can be accessible to everybody should they ever need it if they have a sudden cardiac arrest. And we'll still do all of the things that we promised we would do for the Children's Heart Unit. And we'll still do all the things that we promised we'd do for the other heart units across the northeast and the wider area of England. And you know what? I wrote the letter again. And I took so much time writing it and make sure that it was spot on, because well, this is my second chance, wasn't it, really? It was my second chance to get it right, and I didn't want to mess it up. Anyway, I put the letter in the letterbox at the post office, and off it went to London. Then took a little bit of a while to get back to me, right? But it finally came. It was a Friday, never forget it. And the letter came, and they said, well, open it then. I said, well, how do you know it's off them? Well, look at it. The paper on the envelope was mega thick, okay? And it was really, really posh. And I opened it up. I said, wow. I said, yes. I got the number. I got the registered status, and they gave us the charity number. But guess what day came? A very special day. You'll never forget it. It came on the 20th of March, 2020. Now, if we go to the next slide, you'll understand what day that was. Yes, you guessed it, lockdown. With our Prime Minister, probably every other leader in countries across the world telling us, well, that we couldn't go out anymore. We had to stay indoors. We certainly couldn't have a Red Sky Ball, which was supposed to be on that same day, the 20th of March 2020, the biggest one we'd ever had, with over 1,000 people attending, because we'd outgrown the stadium of we had to move venues. But now there had to be social distancing. There certainly couldn't be any of that magic beer on sale that made people donate loads of money to us. And you know what? It was a real shock for everybody. But I guess what COVID taught us was what was important as well. It gave many people a value for life, value for families, and value to stick together, really. Now, it doesn't matter what country you were in, it affected everybody. And it certainly affected the Red Sky Foundation, which really, that's when it all kicked off, really. You know, that's the date that we got our charitable status through. And we essentially had everybody's ticket money for the Red Sky Ball, which was supposed to be on that date, right? Now, there's a couple of things that we could have done. We could have given everybody their money back who bought a ticket, or On being approached by the local authorities and the local hospital trusts, apparently there weren't enough defibrillators in hospitals, specifically in the COVID wards, which meant that people obviously were coming in their droves for treatment to be put onto ventilators. But unfortunately, with COVID, what was happening was that people were actually dying because when the body shut down, the heart would go into cardiac arrest and they were dying. And now, because they didn't have enough defibrillators on these wards, they asked for some help from the Red Sky Foundation. And I wrote to everybody who bought a ticket for the Red Sky Ball. And I said, would you mind if we used your money that you've spent on your ticket to try and save lives during COVID? And we're going to buy these defibrillators. And we bought over 30 of them. And hopefully, my fingers were crossed that everybody would say yes. And sure enough, they did. Why they did? Because people from England, we stick together. We've got a great community in Sunderland, Newcastle and Teesside. And I did promise them one thing. I promised them that we would do the Red Sky Ball when it was safe to do so, and to keep hold of your ticket, and we'll welcome them back when it was safe. So off we went. If we go to the next slide. I guess that shows what was going on during COVID for us. The masks. I don't really like to be, I'm sure lots of people don't want to be reminded about it too much, but we started putting these defibrillators out into communities. We started putting them into hospitals. We started putting them into nurseries, into churches, into schools. And, the money that we had, we were also helping babies and children who had heart problems by giving them opportunity to live a normal life, just like any other child should and could do. Now, during COVID, obviously, everything was locked down. We couldn't do anything, but it gave us time to get everything in order. We assembled a board of trustees. I didn't get it right straight away. There was myself and my wife, but we had also 5 men. Now, you probably spot the balance shift there. There wasn't enough females. And if you're going to get anything done, you need women on your team. Is that right? Yeah. And it is true. It is true. And if we've got the next slide, with every big organization or a charity, I was always looking and said, how can we create this Red Sky and this image and this brand and make it more powerful and stronger? And I straight away I thought, we need a mascot. So if McDonald's can have a mascot with Ronald, why can't Red Sky have one? So we ran a competition to name our mascot with 5,000 children across Sunderland to come up with a name, and we would pick 3, and we'd let the public vote for the name. Now, the 3 were Party the Party, Jeff, and Miss Beats. Now, Miss Beats won it, hands down, and there she is in the bottom right corner, our wonderful, recognisable mascot, and doing wonderful things. We went into schools as well. We went into outdoor areas where it was safe to do so because of COVID, and we were putting these defibrillators all over the place. Now, with every great charity, you need a couple of patrons, right? Okay, well, I didn't have that many connections to the royal family because most of the big charities had either Princess Diana or Prince Charles or the Queen. So I thought, I know, why don't we go back to the pop stars, yeah? So we had Faye Tozer from Steps. I don't know if you're familiar with Steps in the United States, yeah? 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah?
Mhm.
And most recently, just after we got our charitable status through, I approached a lady called Jill Scott. Now, Jill Scott's an England footballer, a Lioness, and she's just won the Euros. She's just won a Celebrity Jungle reality TV program. So really back then, by asking Jill to be our patron and ambassador for Red Sky Foundation was just amazing, really, because the profile both of our patrons have across the UK, if not Europe and the world, is just phenomenal. So it helps to create a brand. Now, in this time as well, we were doing so many great things. Go to the next slide. More and more people wanted to get involved with the Red Sky Foundation. They wanted to get involved by doing things like running or cycling or swims and personal challenges. And I really dreamed about this, about wouldn't it be lovely if people could wear a Red Sky Foundation vest and pound the streets and raise money for us and help us to change people's lives, but most importantly, to help pretty much save babies and children's lives, and for us to give something back. And that's exactly what's been happening. Now, it's been a superb journey, and yes, we've had our troubles, like most organizations have had. But the best bit about Red Sky Foundation is we don't have offices or company cars or high running costs to run our charity, which means that those guys or girls or children that want to do something to fundraise for Red Sky Foundation can do so knowing that, the money that they raise is going to go direct to a root cause. It's not going to be paying for photocopier paper. It's not going to be paying for power or laptops or anything like that. It's going to save somebody's life, and that's the difference. That's purely the reason I think why we've been so successful. Now, I did promise everybody that we would have the Red Sky Ball, and sure enough, last year on the 10th of March, we managed to have it. If we go to the next slide, you'll see the scale of it and where we've come from. We came from just having a little presentation on a PowerPoint to something spectacular. We had over 1,000 people attend. It was a black tie dinner dance. We had fundraising. We were able to do another fundraiser as well called the White Party and bring people in. If we go to the next slide, there's a few more pictures there of what goes on. And yeah, it's absolutely sensational. It really is. And to get a ticket for the Red Sky Ball is the hardest thing in the world because everybody wants one. So we've now got a waiting list to attend. It's a night of celebration from the successes that we've had from the year before. We show the people that the machines that have been purchased. We bring people real life stories on stage to share them with the guests. And yes, there are a few tears rolling down some faces. We go to the next slide. You know, and I guess it just, those images just tell everything about the Red Sky Foundation, which is to have fun and to realize how great it is what everybody's doing. So really, we don't really do too much different from supporting the hospitals, supporting the Children's Heart Unit, supporting local communities that need defibrillators as well, but also showing children and the general public how to do CPR and how to use a defibrillator, because there's still a massive misconception that you can hurt somebody with it. If we go to the next slide, a couple of our successes, you know, that can show you there. We have to fund that machine in the top right, which is actually, it's called an organ care system, which basically means that a donor heart will be plumbed into the machine and essentially put in the environment that it will be accustomed to within the body of the transplant recipient. We've become very attached to some families in the Children's Heart Unit, families who unfortunately are waiting, just like Drew was, for a donor heart. Okay, so we've been working on different campaigns. We're having, I'll mention them, Terry and Cheryl, the parents of Beatrix in the bottom left there. Beatrix and her family came to the United States of America. They came to America last April, and when they returned home to the UK, Beatrix fell ill, and she never came out of the hospital because now it's recognised that a virus had attacked the heart and she needs a new heart. And she's currently living life with a Berlin heart, which is a mechanical heart, to keep her heart pumping the blood around her body. Every day it's difficult because the tubes in the Berlin heart need to be checked for blood clots, for example, and in order for her to live the best life. Unfortunately, Terry and Cheryl, they're waiting for somebody else to donate their child's organs to Beatrix, really, you know. And I guess when these are real life stories and we can share with people what our aims and objectives are and how we are trying to support those as a family, it's just critical that we can all pull together and work as one big team. And that's exactly what Red Sky Foundation is. If we go to the next slide. So a couple of the things that we have been doing, to show you there, that guy in the top left with your training defibrillator is a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine called Craig Hansen. Craig had a cardiac arrest shortly after playing football when he returned home, and his neighbours saved his life with one of the defibrillators that we'd had installed through some community fundraising that took place. And he's still here to tell the tale. And believe it or not, he's one of our best volunteers going. Couldn't do half of the stuff that we do without him, because he says he owes his life to Red Sky and that defibrillator as well. So that's great. Last year's Red Sky Ball, we raised some money to be able to give the doctor there, pictured with the small baby, the money to go off and buy some tools and equipment to go and perform heart surgery in underdeveloped countries that may have been hit by war zones, or just simply a developing country as well, which is fantastic to see the children being treated there. An example of some children in the school hall there learning about the Red Sky story. And the middle one is I guess more fundraising from local schools. And the bottom right one, well, that's our most recent purchase. This was a Fujifilm machine. It was the first of its type in Europe, and we had to bring it to Sunderland, which is our home city, to treat neonatal babies, premature babies, and to diagnose them more effectively with clear-cut imagery. And you know what? We couldn't have done any of this without the people that come to the Red Sky Ball, or the ones who run the streets in marathons, or the ones that cycle for us, and just truly just get behind us. And it wasn't so long that as recently as last year, we were recognised once again. And now, remember when Boris was putting us all into lockdown, he said no more parties, didn't he? Well, it was all right for him though, wasn't it? He was having parties left, right and centre by all accounts. But in recognition of our hard work and what we'd achieved during lockdown, we were delighted to receive a Prime Ministerial Award called a Point of Light. If you go to the next screen, both Emma and myself were invited to Downing Street to Boris's final swan song before he left office. And it was, again, just the most amazing experience. Now, it didn't matter who was in power. It doesn't matter where your colours lie or what your allegiances are, or which party. The fact that we were invited to somewhere and stand in a garden where so many world leaders in history have stood, or to be in a place where so many influential people have been in across the world, was just a testimony to what we've achieved in the short time that we've been going. If you go, I guess, you know, the things that we have learned and things that we've put in place with the charity as well is strong values. I'm a believer wherever I've worked, they've had values in place, but really, in all fairness, people didn't really keep with these values. You know, they were there just to tick a box and all that, in all honesty with you. So I was adamant that we would have that values, and it didn't matter what you were doing or how you were connected to Red Sky Foundation, whether you were a child that you were learning, whether it was an adult that was fundraising, whether it was somebody that was running the streets, or whether it was somebody, well, could do anything for us, a volunteer, a recipient of the machines that we would have, as long as they recognise what our values were. And guess what? They spell out Red Sky. So I'll talk you through them. The first one is R for resilience. You know, I guess all those people that said this wasn't possible, or all those people that have to have surgery, all those people that have to recover, the doctors, the nurses, they have to work extra long hours. They have to be resilient, but no more so than somebody either giving CPR or receiving CPR. It's exhausting. I get it. When we're showing the children and the adults on the mannequins and the dummies how to practice CPR, they can only probably manage a couple of minutes at best. So to do that on a real person really, really shows that they need to be resilient. The E is for empathy. Now everybody sees the great parties that we have, and the fun and the red, the vibrancy, the everybody sees the music, the connections that we've had with so many special people. But really, the empathy is what the E stands for. Empathy for the fact that nobody sees the phone calls that I might get from a lady who lost her 17-year-old son to cardiac arrest. The phone calls asking for support and help. We now offer a full counselling service to anyone who wants it, and it's free of charge as well. We have endless conversations. We have text messages. We have people who've lost loved ones to cardiac arrest. Or we've got people like Terry and Cheryl, whose daughter's life, Beatrix, hangs in the balance. It really does. Do you know what? Got a pair of these and a warm heart, and I guess that's why I can show empathy. The D, it's for diversity. It's a bit of a trendy word at the moment, but it means none more so than diversity, meaning that Red Sky is for everybody. It's open to anyone who wants to get involved in what we do, but more so about cardiac arrest. It doesn't discriminate at all. As we saw with your American footballer, as we saw with Christian Eriksen in the Euros, as we saw with Craig Hansen, not too far from my home. Sudden cardiac arrest doesn't discriminate whatsoever. It doesn't matter whether you're tall, small, black, white, fat or thin, healthy, wealthy, poor. It really doesn't. And it's just differentiating between the fact of life and death and how a defibrillator can save someone's life. But more so about Red Sky being available to anyone. The S, well, some of you might wonder what that would be. Well, I'll tell you, it's sincerity, because from the day one, I've always been wanting to be open and transparent. Sincerity to show people what we do with the funds that we raise. And I tell you what, there's no better feeling than telling someone that whatever they do to fundraise, we can ring fence it for them, or we can make a difference. We can show them where their money is going. And I'll tell you what, it really, really hits home when somebody can be proud of a defibrillator on a public wall in a community and be able to give it a cheeky little wink to say, I fundraised for that and I contributed to that. And that's what Red Sky is all about. The K is for knowledge. We show people and we teach them. They learn something fantastic. Their knowledge is power, and it really is, because they're learning how to use a defibrillator and also how to administer CPR. And finally, the Y, it's a little play on words. It could be you, it could be Yankee Doodle, it could be a yacht, it could be anything in a children's alphabet book. But you know what? I couldn't really find something that would really hit home. But if you remember the time when, well, me mum or me friends in the pub or the bloke at the Red Sky Ball who said that you can't have this again, or the man in the charity commission who said you can't have your charity number unless you do this, that, and the other. If I hadn't have said why not, right, and challenged and pushed back to find out exactly what it is that I needed to do to make something happen, if I hadn't have said why not, well, if I hadn't have said why not, I wouldn't be sat here standing or sitting talking to the United States of America. Thank you.
Sergio, great job. I'll tell you, your story and just the way you're just an inspirational person, family, and it's really amazing to see everything you all have done. So congratulations on all the success. I know there's a lot more coming. I know I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last 2 years, and I guess there's one thing I know about you is that you're not going to stop. So so I know there's a lot more coming, which is really amazing. One question that came through, we had a couple, but the first one that popped up, and this is actually interesting, was when you place the public access defibrillators outside, are they locked or unlocked?
They're in locked cabinets. I don't know how it works in the States, but typically they're in lock cabinets for two reasons really. And I always try to shed a little bit of sunlight on my reasons for putting it in a lock cabinet, is because if it's in an unlocked cabinet, you might have somebody who goes for a big massive meal and comes home and says to the wife, "Oh, I don't feel too clever that tonight. Let's go and grab that defibrillator, and we'll put it back in the morning," which in actual fact might prevent someone else from surviving a cardiac arrest. The other thing as well is theft. Crime rates are increasing. I don't think it matters where we are as poverty increases and the cost of living crisis. People might see these as valuable items that they can sell on. Obviously, the best bit about a defibrillator is that you can't do anything else with it other than start someone's heart.
Right.
And that's the only reason why. To get in a locked cabinet, you'll know it'll be the same in America. You have to ring 911 on 999 here and access it. They'll give you the code to get it, and it just means that they are protected.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's just something that it was a question that was asked, and it's actually something we talk about a lot, the pluses and minuses of both options. And but I love the idea of having them outdoors, right? And I guess that's another question that I had was like, when you've obviously had like such a tremendous impact on so many people, but when you get like the phone calls that like one of the AEDs that you place saved somebody's life, and it's you've probably had an impact on so many lives, but that's like a tangible thing that you get a call, and it's like if we didn't put that AED there, the person probably wouldn't have survived. Just if you could talk about kind of like what that feeling is like, getting that phone call.
It's unreal. I don't really make a song and dance out of it because it's a personal story for somebody that's had their life saved. So if they want to reach out to us and say, look, like Craig, for example, when I first heard of that happening to him, I didn't really get too involved, and it wasn't until I spoke to his family while he was recovering as well. There's thousands of people being affected by the defibrillators that we're putting out there, and we've put over 300 defibrillators into public spaces in the short space that we've been going. Those ones that went into the hospital on the COVID wards, they soon came out, and they're now in public service as well. Wow. And last year we gave away 101 free defibrillators to grassroots football teams because sudden cardiac arrest can also happen in children as well. But if we can put them into communities, and they went across the whole UK, we had amazing support. We took the campaign over from MasterCard, man. That's exactly how far we've come. MasterCard, global brand. The Little Red Sky Foundations took the project off them in order to fulfill it and to continue it going, which I'm so grateful to them for allowing us to do it, because they know that we've got passion for it.
Yeah.
But when we get the phone calls, they're not all happy endings, unfortunately. And I get a few phone calls of little old ladies who say that they went to get our defibrillator from the local park and it didn't save their husband's life. But at the funeral, they had a collection and they wanted to donate it to Red Sky Foundation because of how local we are. It's a key word here. It really is. We're not a big polished juggernaut. We appear to be on the outside, but on the inside, we're like a little duck with our feet, chasing and cutting off corners left, right, and center. But yeah, great question.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. I don't know how much longer you can call yourself the Little Red Sky Foundation. You're going to have to. You guys are growing and doing so much, which is cool. I guess the last question that I have is. I think the important one is how's your daughter doing now? And is she's doing well, and how's her life, day-to-day life?
She's 9 years old. She tells me it's just over 50 days until her 10th birthday on the 14th of March. She's gonna get an iPhone for her birthday. That's why she's counting the days. And you know what? She plays soccer, and ironically, she plays soccer for the same team that our patron Jill Scott started her football with, Bolden Girls, and it's just lovely to see. You can see on the picture of the opening slide there when she was holding one of your defibs up. she's just beautiful. She really is, and I can't. I'll be forever in debt to the doctors and the nurses that cared for us in that hospital unit, at the Children's Heart Unit in the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle. I really will be. And you know what? I keep in touch with them as well, because without keeping in touch with them, I'll not know what equipment they'll need. I'll not know what the families on the ward need as well. And that's what we do. So we don't just fundraise for DFibs, we fundraise for a whole lot more as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Cool. So last thing before we sign off here, just if you could tell everybody how they could, keep in touch with you, go find more information. I don't know, social media, website, anything that you think you can share to allow people to find more information about you and Red Sky Foundation.
Absolutely. With Red Sky, it's not all about the money. It really isn't. What means more to me is spreading the awareness about our journey, but also spreading the awareness about cardiac arrest, but most importantly, spreading the awareness about how to save somebody's life in cardiac arrest. If you want to get involved and you want to support, if you head onto our website, it's redskyfoundation.com. There's an opportunity to set up a monthly giving, or you know what, even if you don't want to, just I'd love it if you could follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I really would, because we do some amazing things and we have great fun. So please come on, Team Red Sky, and you could do something amazing. And you know what, if anybody's watching this in America and you're going to do something crazy, I don't know, like skydive and things like that, I'd love it if you could take a Red Sky flag with you as well and just send us a little message and tag us too. Because it really, really does mean the world to us. We've got people following us from all over the world. And like last year's Red Sky Ball, we had the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas, the Wynn Resort. They supported us, and we were sending two lucky winners of that prize to America.
Cool.
But our connections between ourselves and yourself, Mike, is just brilliant, and it all came about because I had a bit of time on my hands when Boris Johnson said we couldn't have any parties.
Yeah.
So that's how I looked you up at DFib Tech.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you so much for your support in helping us getting these defibrillators. And it has been tough. It's been tough getting them through the microchip crisis as well, and the production slowed down a bit whilst our growth was rapid. We stuck together, didn't we? And it just shows that together we really can achieve more. And in true American saying here, teamwork makes the
dream work. That's
way
right.
of course it does.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Sergio. So again, congratulations on all your successes with Red Sky Foundation, and thank you for the work that you're doing. It's truly having an impact. I mean, you're seeing it, and it's going to have a bigger and better impact as you all continue to grow. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you again for the work that you're doing, and I know we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
very much, America.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining.